kick assets. Cha-ching!
Hello everybody. I just want to say a big thank you for all the new subs that have joined my channel, and of course for the all original ones. It's really nice to hit over 1,000 subs. I never imagined that happening, but here we are, and I appreciate it. Now that there's a lot of people though, I'm getting a lot of questions and comments and a lot of personal emails. And if I miss one of your comments or emails, I'm really sorry. I'm doing my best to answer everybody the best I can. However, now because I have so many questions and I'm just repeating myself, I've decided to start working on a course, an online lesson, an online course for people who want to learn more about investing into real estate in Japan, of course. So I can give you all my stories, my examples, and all my know-how. So basically, I will cover a lot of different things, whether you want to just buy one property or many properties or an Akiya, or whatever your dream may be in Japan. I'll do my best to answer all those questions and give you all my advice and opinions in my lesson. Now, obviously these are my opinions, but they're based on experience from the last 12 years of dealing with real estate in Japan. So I'm confident in my ability because of all my experience. So I will give you one module for free, 4.2, an introduction, just to give you a simple idea of what the lessons are going to be like. Now, I hope the speed in the lesson's okay. In YouTube, you can either speed them up or slow them down. It's up to you. I decided to speak very clearly and slowly so that everybody can understand. So on YouTube, as well as the site that's going to carry my lessons, you can change the speed to match your needs. But if you have any opinions or thoughts, please leave them in the comments below. And I look forward to showing you the rest of the course in the near future. I can't give an exact date when it'll be released because it's a lot of work, but I'm working as hard and as fast as I can. So please be patient, and I hope you're looking forward to it. I really hope you can join and enjoy my course to the fullest, as it's a lot of valuable information. All right, have a good day and enjoy my free lesson for now. Module 4.2, the 5 types of properties. There can be many ranks of properties, but I will split the properties into 5 areas based on location, as location is a very important factor in deciding a price you can be happy with. First, we have big city properties. These properties are going to be super expensive because they're located in the central city, especially places like Tokyo. Obviously, the prices will differ depending on the big city though. For example, Tokyo will be more expensive than Nagoya. No matter the city though, it's going to be expensive and very hard to find good deals, especially dirt cheap ones. One cannot say never, but the odds are very low and you'd have better luck playing pickup sticks with your butt cheeks than finding a really cheap property in a big city. These properties will bring in bigger rents, but cost a lot more in comparison. There is the potential for rise in appreciation, which is good though. Examples: Tokyo, Osaka, Nagoya, and Yokohama. Next we have the suburbs of big cities or outskirts. The properties located on the very outskirts of a big city, say like 45 minutes to an hour or so in any direction, are more affordable. As an investor myself, this is the sweet spot in my opinion. The reason being is because you can find many properties that are affordable to buy and that are also rentable. You can live in them and still get to the big city easily, or you can rent it out. It's your choice. You also should be able to find renters because the rent is going to be cheaper as well as bigger, and people can either work in that area or take a train into the big city to work. So there's a choice for your renters. So while the properties may not be super cheap, you will get the best bang for your buck, especially as an investment. And at some point in the future, that area might also become a big city, since it's so close to the big city already. And who's to say you cannot find some cheaper deals there? You can. They aren't super common, but the odds are way better than the big city, and sometimes you just might get really lucky. I know because I have, and luckily I was prepared for when those opportunities presented themselves. After going through this course and enough training with us, you should be able to recognize those great deals as well. Remember though, that the outskirts to a big city don't necessarily have to be located in the same prefecture. Also, the rent versus property cost is the best, and there is also big potential for appreciation as they aren't that far from a big city. That area might be the next big thing, especially when people really start to appreciate value. Sometimes you just never know, but there are hints that can tell you when the next area is coming up. This is something you just have to get used to. Examples like this are Hachioji, which is inside Tokyo, Saitama City, which is inside Saitama Prefecture, Chiba City, which is inside Chiba, and Kashiwa. These are just some of the examples that are located in the Kanto region of Japan. All right, after the suburbs, we have medium cities. These cities are places that are cities, but not super big ones. They may be 1 or more hours from a big city or a semi-big city in the prefecture itself. They aren't a metropolis like Tokyo or Osaka, but are big in their own right. The properties here aren't as expensive as a super big city, and some deals can be found. These cities are more affordable and you may even find some really good deals. You just never know. As an investor, they are mid-range. Not bad, but not great. You will pay a lot less for your property, but rent won't be as high and it will be a little harder to find tenants, since most people want to live in or near a super big city, as there's a lot of work there. But that doesn't mean there aren't people who will rent. It just means you won't make as much or it'll take more time to find a tenant. And on top of that, the rents are smaller. However, the properties are also cheaper, so that makes up for it in some ways. Also, the properties may only appreciate a little over time. Examples of this are Takasaki, Nagano City, Sapporo City, and Fukuoka City. Alright, next on the list we have medium city suburbs. You can find some really good deals here, some dirt cheap properties in fact. However, they'll be very hard to rent out and won't get much for rent. This is a great place to buy if you want to be near civilization and not pay a lot for your own home. Also, the property land size and house will more likely be a lot bigger. You may even have yourself a nice garden to grow some vegetables. I found a property like this just outside of Tokyo, but that was really lucky of me being at the right place at the right time, being able to speak Japanese, and knowing my neighbor. The odds of that happening are almost zero, and I admit that even though I was prepared for such an opportunity, that I got really lucky to pull it off. If you want a similar property like me, where you can have privacy and a big enough yard to do what you want, then smaller city suburbs is the way to go. And maybe one day those cities will become massive as well. You just don't know. Also, the appreciation will be slow, if at all. But you just never know. And don't forget, things do change over time. Suddenly, an area that was once cheap is now expensive. So I always say it's better to buy low than buy high. But of course, you have to make a good judgment call depending on the situation. And that's something you just get used to over time. Examples of this are Gunma, Kumagaya, Matsumoto, and Utsunomiya. Alright, lastly we have rural areas and the countryside. These are areas that have really small populations and are losing people to people moving to the big cities and or dying off. There are a range of areas that fall into this category. It can be a really far located remote city, village, or town. It can also be in the middle of the mountains. So basically there are either really inconvenient or not much around, or both. There are a lot of places like this actually. You can find some really cheap properties in places that are quite big in houses and land sizes. These aren't good investments though if you're looking for renters, but can be an interesting investment if you just want your own private property to get away from society. To each their own, I say. And this is where a lot of Akiya can be found. Yes, you can find a range of prices, but there is a reason for that. One being that they are super remote and can't be rented out, so they just stay empty and the owner just continues to pay the land tax. Two, they are old and in rough shape, so a lot of money will be needed to fix them up and to make them livable again. The good news though is if you don't mind the remoteness, is that there are a range of properties to choose from, each having its own little story. Although these properties are hard to rent out and won't get much, there may be some hidden value with appreciation. Since they are really cheap now, there may be a time in the future where they suddenly go up in value. Once again, it's really hard to tell at this point, and it may only be some areas. We just have to wait and see. There's a lot of value to be had here with the right deals though, and it really depends on what you want and what your focus is. So you have to make that decision, not me. Examples of this are Ishikawa, Okayama, Shikoku, Nichinansho, Iwate, and Aomori. Alright, now that I went over the 5 different areas, let's do a little comparison with my little chart here. Alright, here's a comparison between the 5 areas. The cost rating is 1 star, meaning very expensive, and 5 stars, meaning cheap. Investment 5 stars means that you can make a good ROI on the property if you decide to rent. ROI meaning return on investment, obviously. And the value represents what you can get for your money. And 5 stars means you get a lot. So as you can see here, the big city is very expensive. So it's got 1 star under affordability. But I gave it 3 stars for investment and value because it's in a big city. So it might appreciate. And it's conveniently located. It's just you won't get as much for your rent compared to what you pay for it. Next, we have big city outskirts. Affordability is 3 stars, which means that it's not cheap, but it's also not super expensive. And the investment and value are 5 stars because you're going to get good rent compared to what you pay for it. And it also might appreciate in the future as well. So this is why I find properties in this area to be the best value and your best investment. Next, medium city, 3 stars for affordability. So it's going to be similar prices to outskirts, maybe a little cheaper, but not as good as an investment in value because it won't go up as fast. But it might eventually, and the rents won't make you as much. But it's not a horrible investment. It's not bad. It's the second best choice, I think. Next, you have medium city suburb, which is suburbs outside those cities. And because they're outside medium-sized cities, the properties are going to be really cheap or really affordable. So that's why I give it a good rating there with 4 stars. But for an investment, the rents are going to be really cheap and it'll be hard to find renters. So if you're planning on the future, maybe it could be a good investment. But at the moment, it's not. But you get good value considering you're not paying much for the property and there's a potential chance for appreciation. So it's not horrible. Lastly, we have the rural area, which I gave 5 stars for affordability because you can find some really, really good deals, some really cheap properties in the middle of nowhere. However, you're not going to be able to rent them out, or it's very unlikely anyways. So that's why I give it a 1 star investment. But if you just want to use it as a home, then it has some good value. So these are my opinions. My opinion and your opinion might change somewhere down the line as you get more experience. But after dealing in real estate for the last 13 years in Japan, this is what I've come to believe. These aren't 100% in stone, but you get the idea, or at least I hope you do. So it really depends on what you want. If you prefer overall properties that you can live and or make money on as an investment, then I like big city outskirts the best. However, if you're just looking for a super cheap place to live, then rural might be for you. Everyone has different wants, needs, and desires. So keep in mind that these are just my opinions from my experience. You are welcome to do your own research and come to your own conclusions.